Hello everyone, this is my second over the board game since I started my journey at the beginning of November. The journey is to reach 2000 rating in 12 months. If you haven't seen my previous videos, please go and check that video. I'll put a link in the description below. So the previous game I lost, and the lessons learned from that one was to focus on tactics. So I didn't do anything on the opening, as I'm okay with the openings, and I focused on the tactics. The book I started going through is the woodpecker method. I'll introduce this book at some point. So it's got lots of tactical exercises. The idea is that you go through these 1000 or 1100 exercises, and you keep repeatedly solving these, keep solving these problems. And the idea is that it will go into your subconscious, and you will recognize the patterns and get an intuition into recognizing those patterns subconsciously and make the right moves. That's the idea. Anyway, so my opponent in this game was 1745 rated. My rating is 1597, probably dropped a bit to 1590 or something since I lost my last game. So let's go through the game very quickly and see how it went. So e4, I'm white by the way, and I play e4 as you know. e5, bishop to c4, the two knights variation of the Italian, and I went for d4 here, which is the Max Lange attack. And a lot of the players at this sort of level, they don't know the details of this and don't know which one to take, and they fall for some or make mistakes in the opening. And I've had good results with this one. So I took the pawn, I castled, e5 is also possible. I might actually do a video on this opening and my understanding of it and how much I know about it. So if you want to use it, maybe it'd be a useful thing to do. So he took the pawn on e4 as well. He's a pawn grabber. So rook to e1, d5, protecting the knight and attacking the bishop. If you like to think about this, pause the video and think which is the right move. Bishop takes d5, queen takes d5, and pause the video and see what you think about the right move. Knight to c3. So the knight can't be taken. The knight is pinned, so can't move, and the pawn is also pinned because the queen is unprotected behind it. So the queen has to move, and you take your piece back, which is the knight here. Simple as that. The queen moves to a5. The queen could have also moved to h5. Anyway, I take the knight and threaten a discovered check. So the one scenario here is bishop to e6, in which case I would play knight to g5, taking that pawn, the bishop, sorry, but the pawn, and get my pawn back, and probably cause some problems for the king on the side unless it castles on the queen side, which is a different game. He played bishop to e7. I played bishop to g5, and my thinking was, if he castles here, this is going to be the game which ruins his pawn structures, and I'll probably have a better game. Anyway, so he played bishop to e6. He took with the knight, and I had to take the extra pawn that I had lost, and I can't take it with the knight obviously because of the long castle and the pin of the knight. So I have to take that with the queen, and you can see g7 is attacked. To protect that, he played knight to f5, which is not the right move according to the engine. So the right move was castling on the king side. So I played queen to c5, queen takes, knight takes, and you can see that I'll gain a pawn. I'm attacking the b7 pawn, and I'm also attacking the bishop on e6, which I'll then take a pawn, long castles, and I take my pawn. Rook to d7, queen to f1. I was thinking towards the end game I'd like my king to be towards the center, to activate my king, and also avoid any back rank mates. The right move I think was c3 here, and the reason for that is c3 would control the d4 square, and the knight won't have many good squares to go to. So that's probably an oversight from me. I should have seen this move, but I was too much focusing on my king, and also not allowing the rooks to penetrate onto the second rank. Doubles the rooks, I double my rooks, and now he plays c5, which is a mistake. I played g4, pushing the knight away, and I think the c3 move was probably better, again taking that d4 square from the knight. The engine suggests here rook to e5, which I didn't consider for some reason, and I don't know why. And you can see you're attacking the knight and the pawn at the same time, and the only way to prevent that is rook to d5, and with the c4 it forces the exchange, and you still got that attack. Knight comes here, you take that, and you can either exchange the knight or the knight goes back, and you've got the 2 extra pawns towards the end game, and that's an easy win. Anyway, back to the game. So I played g4, played knight to d4, takes, and I need to protect my pawn. So it's the second rank. Attack the rook. He goes back. Now I go to this 7th rank, and I was thinking I probably controlled that. So he comes to prevent my activities on the 7th rank, and here the engine is suggesting the best move to be king to g2, and the reason for that is the king to g2. So what will happen is then you can have your pawns supported with the king, and trying to push these and create a pass pawn on this side with the protection of the king. So whereas I exchanged the rook, and theoretically most rook endgames are drawn, but obviously that's for titled players who know how to play with the rooks. The players at my level, I think if you have an extra pawn, you can most of the time win the game, because the opponent doesn't play the best game with the rooks, and they don't know how to treat these end games. So I suggest if you've got an extra pawn, just continue. Obviously you would continue and see if you can take a win out of it. Move my king, b6, c3. Now I'm pushing the rook away from that point, which is probably a bit late now. f4. This move wasn't correct. I think f3 would have been better, because now you can see that when rook comes to d3, my king is cut off and can't move to protect the pawns and create that pass pawn that I'm after. Yeah, although the black king is cut off as well from this side, from this file here totally, but a pawn on itself too far away from the king won't be able to reach the promotion square, and this rook will be able to go and attack it at some point, and because of the gap between the pawn and the king. Anyway, so because I didn't have a choice, I have to move my pawns. My hedge pawn here moves, cements is rook on d3. I keep going, and now he played g6. So the mistake I made, I played f5 here, which the engine is suggesting is a draw. So the best move obviously was h6, b5, let's say g5, and you create this pawn chain here, which are close to the promotion point, and the king is cut off from the side. So now you try to bring your king towards the center, and then try to get towards the back end and see if you can take some of these pawns and create a pass pawn and promote it. That's the idea. So let's make some moves. So to allow your king to move, you have to make some concessions and probably give some of the pawns away on the queen side. So is this scenario where you can get your rook in and somehow get, once this rook is away from this file, you can probably penetrate and go in and create that pass pawn here. So anyway, once I moved my f5 pawn, that's what I was thinking was this. I was thinking about this, but what I didn't see was this. I saw it, but I didn't calculate it in detail, because this now threatens a fork, right? So I have to do something about that. If I move my rook here, take both of the pawns, and then this will be definitely a drawn game, because if I take, yeah, that's the other one is taken, and I'm a pawn behind now. Yeah, so I don't want this, where I'll be fighting for a draw now. So I thought I'll take that now, although I'm a pawn up, but it's probably still a drawn game. Attacks, I defend it. You can see the evaluation is almost 0. So I protect, comes here. So I bring my rook to d2 to give it a bit of a activity towards the back. Check. So I keep contact with the rook, just in case I have to move my rook back and give some checks at the back and try to see if I can win this rook, or give up my own rook with a pawn or something from the back. So the right move was, according to the engine, giving the check, but he went back. So now I've got the option of taking either of those pawns, which I took the h pawn, and I thought, okay, if I've got pawns on one side, at least he won't have any pass pawns, even if he takes my h pawn, and then I don't have anything to worry about on that side. So I take that to a5, and I come back to c7 to take the other pawn, because you can't protect this pawn now. We'll lose this pawn. The engine is suggesting here, which is not an easy move to see, is rook to d7. So the idea behind this is that he would go to take the pawn here. I check, and then he will prevent the pawn from blocking the pawn, and I then block the pawns, the white's pawn, the queen side, from moving. Rook to h1 and rook to b5, protecting everything on this side and threatening to take that b6 pawn, right? So the rook would then need to be tied back either to the pawn, to the b6 pawn by coming back, or they can go to a1 and attack that one and give up one of the pawns here. So this will allow my king to come to the queen side and start taking the black's pawns. Yeah, for example here. I mean, they can take it, but then I'll take that one. That will be next. I can take that one next. I think in this case, the engine is suggesting these are the engine moves that I'm playing. So you can see that black would have trouble here, because as soon as I come with my king, take these pawns or even take those pawns, then it's gone, the game is finished. But it's not easy to see that rook to d7, so I thought I would just take that extra pawn here. It's probably good enough for me. Take that pawn, takes. I try to bring my king to the queen side, and that's the only way to block the path of the king with my rook. So the engine suggests here king to b3, but I move to a4, which is a mistake according to the engine, and this results in a draw again. As I said before, black needs to play accurately to make a draw, and it's not easy. I thought I'll keep the black king away from the pawns, keep the block, and here that's the mistake. So now he has to either exchange the rocks, which I think he will just lose. Exchanging the rocks will just lose the game. You can see I'll take these pawns. Right. So he avoided the exchange. I check and take the other pawn. So now I've got two extra pawns, and this should be winning. The king came to attack the rook, and rook to b5. Now he can't avoid the exchange or lose another pawn, and he resigned here.